Hello, my name is Bertjan Verbeek. I'm from the Department of Political Science at Radboud University, Nijmegen, and together with my colleagues Andrej, Zaslove and Nijhuis, I contributed a chapter to this wonderful project dealing with the reaction of Dutch right-wing populist parties to the Russian-Ukrainian war. Why is it so interesting to have a look at the Netherlands in this regard? Well, first of all, we have quite a lot of populist parties and also particularly right-wing populist parties. They occupy between 18 and 20% of the electorate. Well, therefore, there's always a big prize to be gained at Dutch elections for right-wing populists. But secondly, we observed that in their reaction to the Russian-Ukrainian war, these right-wing populist parties actually diverse quite a lot in the way they have been reacting and dealing with this war. In the chapter, we try to explain why this is the case. Which right-wing populist parties have we investigated? There are three of them. First of all, the biggest one that has been there for quite a while already, the Party for Freedom of Geert Wilders. Secondly, the Forum for Democratie, the Forum for Democracy, led by Thierry Baudet, who became very popular about 4 years ago when he became the biggest party in regional elections, but now has had some internal problems in his parties, which resulted in a breakaway party, which is the third party that we have investigated, the so-called Right Answer 21 party, which in Dutch translates almost like Yes 21, which actually is now occupying an important position in the Dutch First Chamber or Senate. On the basis of tweets, on the basis of the speeches they held in Parliament, and on the basis of some interviews that they published in newspapers, we investigated and we traced the position of these parties before and after the outbreak of the Russian-Ukrainian war. What are the divergent outcomes? The PVV, the biggest party, takes a kind of a middle position. It, on the one hand, condemns explicitly the aggression and calls it aggression by Russia, and is in a way, it understands that we have to invite and welcome Ukrainian refugees. At the same time, it does not fully follow the policies of the Dutch government. Actually, it defines its attitude as we deplore the situation, but we as a Party for Freedom have to assess what it means for the ordinary Dutch citizen, what populists always care about, what it means for the ordinary Dutch citizen, how we deal with this war. And that means that they want to receive Ukrainian refugees, but only if that means that other refugees go to other places. And yes, they understand that they want to increase the defense budget. However, we're not going to raise more money for that just like that. The money has to come from other budgets like the development aid or other kind of budgets that the right-wing populists are not so interested in. The second party, the Forum for Democracy party, takes a very extreme position. It actually says that, well, it's war is always very tragic, but war happens, and there are always many people who sort of contributed to a war, and also the EU and NATO in the past have contributed to the outbreak of this war. So they sort of take a kind of neutral position, if you want, in this conflict, refuse to condemn Russia explicitly at least for the war, and by consequence implicitly seem to support it, if you want, at least not contradict it. Actually, they see it as part of a big plan, a great reset, in which they feel that the United States has a big plan in organizing regime change all over the world. Hence, they refuse to condemn this Russian aggression. The third party, Yes 21, actually remains closest to the government position, and they fully embrace the idea that it's Russian aggression, they embrace the sanctions, and the increase in the Dutch defense budget. Why? How can we explain the difference between these two parties? Two elements here are very important. First of all, it is important that they have a different idea of what the true people and the true villains are. For the Forum party, the true villains we find in the globalized cosmopolitan world, and therefore they would resist anything that sort of is linked up to that. The Party for Freedom actually only thinks in terms of what does it mean for the ordinary Dutch citizen, and is assessing all policies actually in terms of those considerations. So that's one reason why they differ so much substantively regarding this war. But importantly also, these parties take different positions in terms of the electoral position in Dutch politics. The Ja 21, the Yes 21 party really wants to be part of the government in the future, so they are more moderate. The Forum party actually has isolated itself from normal policies and therefore doesn't really care what the electoral consequences may be. These factors explain the differences between the three most important Dutch right-wing populist parties.